Hey everyone, this is Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology. Today we are going to give you some horoscopes for the upcoming Grand Water Trines. These horoscopes are going to be focused on what are called the purusharthas in Indian astrology, which are the houses that are all connected by trines and that are grouped together according to a major philosophical concern or pursuit that human beings have in a lifetime. These four areas I will explain to you. I will explain how the three houses that the Grand Water Trine is activating in your birth chart according to your rising sign are connected by topic. And then I will give you 5 things to watch for so that you can think very broadly about what area of life is being activated through the realm of the purusharthas. This is, I think, going to be a really fun way of approaching horoscopes. As I told you guys, I'm usually trying to survive horoscopes, but something like this is really fun and innovative. Don't worry, because we will be doing horoscope. You're going to get horoscopes on these from our team and from myself in more, let's call it standard ways, like Aries through Pisces. But today, I think this will be a really innovative way of thinking very broadly about not just one house in your chart, but 3 that are all connected philosophically and how that might show up in your life. So that is our agenda for today. Before we get into it, remember to like and subscribe, share your comments and reflections. We're trying to get to 100,000 subscribers on the channel by next summer. I believe we can get there, but it does require people who listen regularly to just click that subscribe button and help us out. You can find transcripts of any of these daily talks on the website, nightlightastrology.com. Next week, we will begin advertising our upcoming Year 1 program. New cohort begins November 8th. For now, we are finishing daily promotion for our retreat next year. We are well over halfway full now, closer to 3/4 of the way full for our retreat called the Oracle Within, which is taking place in Mexico next June. This is all about developing that intuitive and divinatory component of astrology. So much of astrology is technique and theory and counseling, but there is also a level at which astrology takes place because you have a living connection with an oracle. We're going to talk about what that is philosophically, historically, and also have this retreat is designed to give you immersive experiences in developing an oracular connection. Anyway, I can't wait for this retreat. There's an informational video at the end of today's content tagged on so you can learn about it. Early bird rate ends the beginning of October, so you have a little bit of time to save on the cost of the retreat. And come study with us. This is a brand new training program. None of this curriculum is a part of my other programs, so can't wait to deliver it for the first time in Mexico. Go to live talks. I'm very excited. I know that for some people, this may not seem like the most exciting topic, pairing the planets, Mercury's many faces. This month, I am looking at planetary combinations, which means what does Mercury do when you put it with every other planet? The reason that this is important is that archetypes were considered archai or first principles. Philosophically speaking, they were thought of as like the nuts and bolts of reality itself from a philosophical standpoint. So when you understand the underlying philosophical first principles of planets and you know how to combine them on that level philosophically, you then have the skeleton key by means of which all of the lists you ever read in textbooks are created. And so I want to give you that in this series. We're going to start with Mercury. In November, we're going to do Venus. And then in 2026, we'll be rolling through all the other planets. This is a great, great series for people who want to understand planetary pairings in your own birth chart. But more importantly, people who are looking to interpret charts or learn astrology at a deeper level. This is going to give you a really amazing set of tools to work with theoretically. So I hope that you'll come and check this series out. If you can't attend any of the talks live, of course, you get the recording later. Courses page, go to the first year course, starts November 8th. I'll be telling you more about this next week. Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic is our first year program in Hellenistic astrology. It's a fantastic course and it begins again pretty soon in November. You'll see me promoting that more next week. Okay, so let's refresh on the Grand Water Trines that we've been studying this week. This week has been a real focused, in-depth look at the approach of these Grand Water Trines. I have visited this now pretty much every day of the week because it's a slow, dead week in which there really are no major astrological transits to get ourselves worked up about. So when that's the case, I like getting ahead on things that are really big that we could use a little extra time to meditate on, especially since it's coming up really soon. So if we go forward to the end of October, what we're going to see is that Neptune backtracks into Pisces. And now we have both Saturn and Neptune in the late degrees of Pisces. In the meantime, Jupiter in Cancer is approaching the trines. This sets us up for grand water trines because we have Mars, Mercury, even the moon on this little portion of the end of October, heading through late Scorpio. This then connects to create a grand water trine. If this was it and it was just a couple of days, okay, it's interesting. It's kind of a big deal, but wouldn't be something that we'd be fixating on. Now, what makes this truly unique is the fact that after these grand water trines come through in late October, what's going to happen is the sun is going to come through the same degree space in Scorpio, reigniting the grand water trine around the middle of November, while Mercury is also retrograding back into the late degrees of Scorpio to also reactivate the grand water trine. So then we have there's a new moon right around about the 20th of November. That new moon activates the grand water trine. So we have an entire lunar cycle toned by it with a Mercury cazimi. That cycle starts off opposite Uranus with the grand water trine present. That's significant. That's a really big deal, honestly. Then we see Venus coming through the late degrees, and Mercury's retrograde slows down stations. Venus activates the grand water trine in late November, and then Mercury's direct motion captures the grand water trine one more time in early December. That effectively means that from late October through about the middle of December, it is just raining cosmically. We have wave after wave after wave of this grand water trine configuration. Now, what I want to do today is give you a horoscope that is rooted in the Indian purusharthas. Now, let me explain what these are in case you're new to this subject, although I have covered it on the channel in the past. And I'm going to explain to you how this works. And then I'll tell you how you can listen to this to get the most out of it, like a horoscope. So, the purusharthas are basically 4 areas of human life in Indian astrology that are mapped onto the houses. 4 areas of life that are connected to 3 houses each. Those areas of life represent the purusharthas. They're Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksa, and I'll tell you what they mean. But they, broadly speaking, represent the basic aims of human life. And these are very, very old in ancient Indian philosophy. They come through the Vedic wisdom tradition and are the entire Indian astrological tradition is steeped in that philosophical and religious perspective. So this is yoga philosophy. Now, when we look at the birth chart, those 4 areas of life are mapped onto the 4 sets of 3 houses. And so the 4 areas of life carry an expression through 3 different houses each. The purusharthas are therefore represented by the trigonal houses. The trigonal houses are those that are connected by trines, which means when we have a grand water trine, one for each of us, for fire signs, earth, air, and water signs rising, a certain set of 3 houses that are occupied by water signs in a whole sign house format will be active and therefore expressing through the lens of the purusharthas. This becomes a really useful way of interpreting something as big and interconnected in a chart as transiting planets in a grand water trine for basically 2 months. So again, will we do some that, maybe break down your horoscope in a more traditional looking way? Yes, of course. We'll have the monthly overviews and we'll have our horoscope team breaking these water trines down and so forth. But let's approach it from this perspective today. And let me first tell you what the houses are and how they're connected. Now, if you're like, ooh, I really like this, by the way, my 2025 masterclass series, which is finishing up this month of September, was focused 12 classes in all and spread out throughout the year on all of the purushartha houses connected by trines. So in the first series, we looked at the Artha houses, we looked at the Dharma houses, we looked at the Artha houses, the Kama houses, the Moksha houses this fall. So if you really like this, the master classes will eventually be posted on the website for sale, and you can pick those up and study them in depth for, I think there's probably 30 30 hours of content or something like that, just dedicated to these. So anyway, let's get into what these houses are and how they're connected. So the Dharma houses are going to be 1, 9, and 5. And don't worry, I'll get to the piece where we talk about where the Grand Water Trines are appearing in your houses and how to apply all this. I just want to explain what these areas are and how they're connected. So I'm going to explain them very briefly. And like I said, I have spent hours and hours diving into them in my masterclass series. So this is like very brief treatment just to give you the basic idea. The Dharma houses are 1, 9, and 5. And Dharma, broadly speaking, means what is the essential nature of something. If you think of the Dharma of fire, fire is fire because it is hot and light. And without being illuminating, without having the quality of light, and without heat, it's not fire. So in a very basic way, Dharma pertains to what the true nature of something is. What is its true essence? And these houses pertain to the essence of the soul in the first house. That is a Dharma house. So who am I as a soul? What is my true nature? Very fundamental and existential. In the 9th house, we're talking about Dharma universally. What is reality? So the 9th house pertains to the Dharma of God. Like what is the nature of God? What is the nature of reality? What is the nature of divinity? What is the nature of the cosmos? And understanding that belongs to the 9th house. But we are also an individual being with a soul who has a true nature that we're here to understand. The 5th house has to do with how our Dharma, our true nature, is expressed and commingles creatively with other beings, which is why it's connected to things like childbirth, pregnancy, and creating other beings, because it's about how your essence expresses itself creatively in relationship with others. This is also a place where the natural expression of your soul in terms of love, creativity, connection with others is often found and expressed. This is like your creative Dharma that is supposed to be joyfully, creatively connecting you to others in the world. So our essence is partially found in creativity and creative acts. So anyway, these are the Dharma houses. Let's go on to the Artha houses. That's 10, 6, and 2. So we see these houses all connected by trines, and Artha, as a philosophical concern or pursuit of human life, has to do with material resources, material security, and anything from power or wealth or acquisition or assets or resources or money, in addition to things like power, skill, and mastery in the world, anything that kind of gives you a foothold in the material world. At the most basic level, everyone can resonate with the need for security, the need for stability, to have clothes on our back and shelter over us and food on the table. So these houses are concerned with material security in the most basic sense, and then prosperity as well. Like, how much do I need to have to feel? And these can be very materialistic concerns. So, just as much as we can live in ignorance of our Dharma, of our true self, or the Dharma of reality, we have illusions about what is real. So too can we go too far when it comes to material security, comfort, acquisition, wealth, etc. But it is a part of life that we have to deal with. We're material beings who have to survive. So these houses have to do with things like money, job, power or presence in the world, influence in the world, and things like that. Okay, so broadly speaking, houses 10, 6, and 2 are all connected to that. 10 with the visible, outward vocation, appearance in the world, the marketplace, the workplace, our vocations, mastery, prestige, notoriety, power or influence in the world. The second house, the literal resources, acquisitions, wealth, assets that we have. And the 6th house, interestingly, is a realm in which we deal with the various slings and arrows of misfortune, sickness, disease, poverty, work, competition, limited resources and competition for those resources. The 6th house is a house that represents the hard work, the labor, the fact that securing material existence is often not easy or enjoyable, but it's somehow necessary. So the 6th house is a house of chopping wood and carrying water, because the material world requires this constant effort of sacrifice. The material world is like a blazing fire, and you got to constantly be throwing wood on it, and the wood, burns up. So the 6th is a little bit of a difficult house, always has been, But that's because it's connected in this sense to the toil and effort and work and labor and all the things you have to kind of overcome as a being that's both trying to survive, experience security, and maybe flourish materially. Okay, going on to the Kama houses, those are 7, 11, and 3. These houses, like the word Kama, which means bliss, have to do with happiness. They have to do with the happiness that is experienced emotionally and psychologically, but in relation to others and the world. Of these 3 houses, the 11th house is the one concerned with social well-being and happiness and satisfaction as it pertains to the fulfillment of our social and public or professional aspirations, goals, dreams, those that are somehow defined and enmeshed with a society, that the society grants or delivers some sense of happiness to us because of what we've done or accomplished, as well as any of the civic or social connections we make that deliver happiness that connect us to other people or groups of people. And so the 11th has a kind of broad social collective sense of happiness around it, or happiness that's granted to us because of what we've achieved that's been noticed or recognized more socially or publicly. Now, the 7th house, more interpersonal. It's about interpersonal fulfillment, intimacy, desire, sex, marriage. If you think of the Kama Sutra, right, you're thinking of like sort of the 7th house, that domain of what we need and can't find on our own that has to be drawn out through intimacy. Now, any interpersonal relationships could map there, right? But usually it's love, it's sex, it's marriage, it's intimate relationships. The 3rd house is interesting because it speaks to the need for interior psychological, mental, and emotional fulfillment through the constant shifting and changing of our impulses and our interior psychological and mental life. The 3rd house in Hellenistic astrology is called the joy of the moon, maps pretty nicely into the Indian purusharthas here, because Kama would suggest that there's a deeply emotional, subjective part of our being that seeks expression and fulfillment. And this is more personal, less interpersonal in a sense. It's about acknowledging and honoring those raw emotional and psychological impulses. It may also lead to the development of different skills or assets personally that we don't have, but we desire. So the 3rd house also has a lot to do with the things we desire mentally, psychologically, that may lead us to trying to cultivate things within ourselves. But anyway, these 3 houses all pertain to the pursuit of happiness and pleasure in kind of emotional fulfillment in different areas of life that are all generally considered social. Now, Moksha houses are 4, 8, and 12. Also all connected by trines, and these houses are all related to that word moksha, which means liberation. Liberation of the soul from suffering, the burning off of karma, the gradual enlightenment of the soul, usually through the relinquishment of attachments, or through the burning off of karma, or through processes of purification or enlightenment. These houses are, especially 12 and 8, are often considered difficult because the liberation involves the relinquishment of attachments that are sometimes shadowy and painful to process and release. And so, especially with houses 12 and 8, we're talking often about liberating from worldly attachments and entanglements through things like death, loss, grief, suffering, dark nights of the soul, the termination of various contracts in life with other beings that are sometimes hard to let go of, the loss of control of our ego, or sometimes our sense of what do I want to say? Like we could lose the plot in the 12th house. So these are often spaces of deep unconscious processes. And yet our contact with them is often at the heart of moments where we feel like we've been most spiritually illuminated because of a healing process that we've had to go through. The 4th house, a little bit different, but similar insofar as it's considered a resting place. And in terms of our interior life, if you think about rest, retreat from the world, interiority, there's always been a real deep religious connotation that the 4th house has carried. And that 4th house religious connotation has to do with the seeking of refuge and interiority. connection with the gods, religion, spirituality, home, privacy, resting parts of life that may have contact with our living environment, right? So you go out of the workplace and into your bedroom, or in my case, like my office is a place of great refuge and rest for me. I really find this is like a little sanctuary for me. So the fourth house you can think of almost like a sanctuary where there can be a more conscious, deliberate way that we release from things, and a place of rest and refuge while we're in this world. But also the fourth house, the ancestral karma, the family karma, often a source of tremendous growth and learning for us in terms of the process of enlightenment and liberation. So anyway, these are all the major purusharthas. So what I want to do now that we've just briefly introduced you to them is talk about what it might mean if you have these areas of life activated by these grand water trines. I mean, that really is what I'm most excited to try to convey for you in terms of like, what might it mean that we have grand water trines for each of us pouring through one of these purushartha realms of the birth chart for like 2 months. So with that in mind, we're going to break this up into fire signs. And hold on, actually, I'm just realizing that what I'll do is I'll make a little, yeah, I'm just going to make little banners for each because I think that'll be easier. Let's see. Yeah. I'm sorry, give me just 1 second here. Okay, there we go. So what I'm going to do now is just walk you through what it might mean and look like for your rising sign. So what I'm going to be doing is talking about elemental families rising. So if you have any of the fire signs rising, in other words, if you're an Aries rising, a Leo rising, or a Sagittarius rising, the grand water trines, no matter which rising sign you are, will be falling in your moksha houses. So I want to talk about that first. We'll start with the fire signs, then we'll go earth, air, and water. And let me give you 5 things to watch for. So if you are a fire sign rising, you're getting these grand water trines in the moksha houses. That's 8, 12, and 4. What I would recommend watching for would be any kinds of themes that have to do with family and home transitions of karma, because one of the areas being lit up will be your 4th house. So moves, inheritances, births, family restructurings, divorces and marriages, anything to do with the living environment itself, encounters with mortality and death and the relinquishment of various attachments, unanimous for all moksha houses, but specifically the 8th house. I would also watch for major psychological turning points that have a distinct emotional quality, maybe a big emotional release or a big emotional catharsis that serves in some kind of very key process of psychological change. The reason for this is that the moksha houses are so frequently connected with moments of major psychological release and liberation and transformation. With water signs here, I'm thinking about a kind of flooding or major emotional experience that serves as a valuable psychological turning point, one in which you may feel that you're releasing something or letting go. That carries the water and the moksha of all 3 houses pretty nicely. I would also think about the need for interior therapeutic retreat or withdrawal from the world. Water signs and moksha houses to me speak of the need to separate and process things emotionally, spiritually, psychologically in some healthy place of depth and interiority, space, and reflection. And so watch for things that can kind of separate you a little bit from the world or give you a little distance and time for reflection, or maybe even something therapeutic that you're doing for yourself to gain a little bit of healthy emotional processing distance from the world. That's very moksha house with fire, with water. So the fire signs, you got these moksha houses being activated. Finally, I would talk about letting go of debts, obligations, karmic entanglements, unhealthy ideas about yourself or perceptions, just the broad theme of release and closure around things that have been weighty or heavy emotionally. So that's the moksha houses for the fire signs. That's the processes that you want to look for, that sense of spiritual liberation and release in houses that can be, all about letting go of things and finding spaces of healing and relinquishment of various attachments. Okay, I am going to next let's go back to the chart on the screen. And after, I'm going to put the Taurus on the ascendant just to illustrate our earth signs are going to have the watery trigon in your Kama houses. So the Kama houses are 11, 7, and 3, just as a reminder. So if you are a Capricorn rising, a Taurus rising, a Virgo rising, any earth sign rising, the Kama houses are being activated. So let's talk about Kama being activated and 5 things to watch for if you're an earth sign rising. One would be any kind of development in interpersonal relationships, especially things that require deeper emotional processing, grieving, surrendering, letting go, deeper emotional bonding or attachment patterns, reconciliations and healing in relationships, topics like marriage, divorce, deepening commitments, all because all of these domains, the Kama houses, have to do with emotional happiness in relation to other beings, especially the 7th house. I would also look for shifts along the lines of your social life within communities, within networks of colleagues or social professional networks things are shifting emotionally, or a sense of profound depth or emotional catharsis is taking place within some spaces that are more social and professional and collective and public. That would be the 11th house, right? I would think about collaborative projects and any kinds of alliances or things where assets and ideas and wishes and aspirations are sort of flowing together to meet one another. Water flowing through these houses can be interconnective and help you connect with other people, especially because of a shared emotional vision or longing or desire. That you can also think about important breakthroughs in, let's call it, communication, mind, emotion, that are very personal. Getting in touch with what you feel, what you think, what you desire in a very personal way. That's that 3rd house that can shape the kinds of things you feel like you need to say or create or learn or practice. So anything involving your own subjective orientation and what is on your mind, what's on your heart, what needs to be expressed emotionally, how that's shaping your desires and intentions right now, be very 3rd house-like from the Indian purushartha standpoint. And then finally, just really exploring your wishes, your desires, what is or isn't making you feel emotionally satisfied, and letting that guide you right now. That would be really important for all of the earth signs, because your Kama houses, the pursuit of pleasure and happiness, is being activated by the Grand Water Trine. All right, let's move to the air signs next. So taking all of this into consideration, we go into our air signs. I'm going to put Gemini on the ascendant. The air signs are going to be occupying, the water houses will then occupy your Artha spaces. Houses 10, 6, and 2 will be activated for all air signs. So whether you're Gemini rising, an Aquarius rising, a Libra rising, all 3 air signs will have the water signs in houses 10, 6, and 2. So those are our Artha houses. So here's what I would watch for. The Artha houses being activated can speak to important financial transitions. You think of water as pooling together resources or flooding you. In either way, there could be, what could be created through this would be a change in how you're allocating or using resources, how you're earning them, or what expenditures are coming up. So income, expenditures, time and energy as resources, windfalls, losses, investments that reshape what stability looks like, what security looks like. And it wouldn't be uncommon for there to be some strong emotional currents flowing through this area of life, which for air signs might mean that the connection between psychological states, emotional states, and financial or material realities has to be explored. I would also look at job or career shifts. Just very basically, Grand Water Trines in these areas could suggest promotions, resignations, relocations, new roles, new workplace structures, or organizational approaches. So if you think about all of these houses pertaining to the material reality, that means that these Grand Water Trines could be creating some real shifts around what work and career looks like, just very basic. Number 3 would be health. The 6th house especially will often bring up challenges to our material survival and security, which can include health challenges. But water in these places flowing together might also mean that you're looking at patterns of well-being, and that the water can provide you with a sense of self-care, nurturance, healing, where maybe these houses we tend to get a little run down because it's the material world is a grind. So the Artha houses often speak to the workaday world and the allocation of resources and assets within it to create a sense of security or stability. But part of that is health. The 2nd house and the 6th, for example, both have dimensions of them that are associated with health through things like diet, the daily work life, and the tendency to get exhausted. So I would look at that as well. I would also look very closely at the connection between your emotional state, internally, psychologically, individually, and your daily work rhythms or your daily work life. How are you using your time? How are you working? How are you managing obligations and duties? And the emotional reality of how that's feeling for you could be very important right now. And then broadly speaking, concern or changes with respect to your level of mastery, your ability with various skills, the public honor, reputation that you carry, major shifts of visibility or role within the work that you do, all things that could come up within the realm of Artha. So you're going to watch for these things coming up as the alchemy of water is pouring through over a couple of months. All right, finally, we have the water signs. And we're going to, let me just put that up on the screen. And let's move to Cancer rising. And again, you're basically just saying this is the case for any water sign rising. We're in the Dharma houses now, 1, 9, and 5. If you're a Cancer rising, a Pisces rising, or a Scorpio rising, the Grand Water Trines will all land in houses 1, 9, and 5 in one order or another. So that being the case, water signs are in the Dharma houses. First and foremost, when it comes to the first house Dharma, you're thinking about an exploration of identity and selfhood and your own psychology. What is my true nature becomes really important when water signs are in the Dharma houses, because the big focus will be on the first house. Who am I? Why am I here? What is my true nature? What is my essence? And how is the rest of my life and all these different areas of life reflecting an alignment with my essence or not? So explorations of personal character, authentic, true nature of selfhood, very important for the Dharma houses. The other one would be educational turning points. We are all students in one area or another. Many of us are lifelong learners. Many of us within our respective fields are always learning new things. So with the 9th house emphasized, whether it's the study of God and religion in the universe, or it's the study of something that we're pursuing for the sake of a vocation or calling, the Dharma houses speak to, especially the 9th, the process of understanding the true nature of something, which could be something very specific like music, or it could be something very specific like teaching elementary children or something. But it could be very broad too, in the sense that there's educational turning points with respect to our understanding of like God or the universe. But think about that as something flowing through in the next couple of months, understanding something of truth, of higher nature, of reality, of what your own interests for the sake of learning are. Like, what do I want to learn? Spiritual or religious transitions could also come with this. So we'll put that as a sort of separate thing here, but watch for pilgrimages, ritualistic experiences of mystical or otherworldly experiences, spiritual practice becoming more important, things like prayer or meditation, or anything that's designed to connect you experientially to both self and divinity. Creative breakthroughs, right? So the fifth house is how our Dharma carries into our relationships with other beings, in terms of things like affection, romance, creativity, play. Our authentic nature should be the source of joy that connects us to other beings. But also creatively, we learn about our essence through being creative and expressing something of our essence in what we create. So anything linked to creativity, anything linked to authentic selfhood and how it connects us with others, or potentially if we aren't living in alignment with ourselves, how is that reflected in creative things that I do or relationships that I have that are reflecting back to me that I don't feel like myself. Finally, anything involving teaching or mentoring, teachers, mentors, acting like one yourself, becoming one, seeking out things that can illuminate your true nature or the true nature of things in general. These would all be in alignment with Dharma for the water signs. Okay, so we've made it through these unique Purushartha horoscopes. I think that this is going to be a really valuable, and kind of this week we talked about alchemy. We talked about the biggest transits, of the remainder of the year, and we talked about the water alchemy. And now we're talking about the Purusharthas and how these watery trines may activate an entire domain of human life based on our rising signs. So I hope this was fun. And like I said, we'll be doing different kinds of horoscopes as we get closer to the date. If you're waiting for something like that, don't worry, it'll be there. In the meantime, stick around after I sign off to learn more about our retreat to Mexico next June. I hope to see some of you there. Early bird rate lasts until the beginning of October. All right. Have a great rest of your week, everyone, and we'll see you again soon. Bye. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking around. I'm really excited to tell you more about the Oracle Within, the retreat that we'll be hosting in Mexico in June of 2026. So this is a little informational video that I've made to answer all the questions that you might have about the retreat. In this video, I'm going to start by telling you more about what you will learn on the retreat, what the focus of our studies will be, and then I'm going to tell you about our daily format and sort of what day-to-day life will look like at this retreat center outside of the actual material we'll be studying. I'm going to then tell you who this retreat is ideal for, what kind of background you may want to have before coming along. And then finally, I'm going to tell you more about how you can register. And of course, I'll take you over to the actual retreat website page so that you know where all of the information is located. There's also a really rich FAQ section that will probably answer any further questions you may have. On that note, let's start with what will I learn? So for a very long time, astrologers have talked about what astrology is. What is this? Is it some kind of karmic science? Is it a science of causal energies and influences? Is this actually scientific? Like, what order of knowing is astrology? If we say we can know something about reality, then how can we actually say that when it comes to astrology? These may seem like really deep, dense philosophical issues, but actually they're at the heart of what it means to really deepen into astrology. To have an understanding of what this actually is so fundamental and so helpful. Throughout all of the programs that I teach at Nightlight, I, of course, talk at length about my belief that astrology is a form of divination, that this is a language of signs and omens, very much like the tarot or the I Ching or many other systems of symbolic divination from all around the planet. We're going to spend a lot of time on this retreat talking about what astrology is. From a historical and philosophical perspective, what is divination? What is divination, not just in this tradition, but all over the planet? What kind of things does a divinatory view of the cosmos assume about the nature of reality, about the nature of the soul, and what we're actually doing as practitioners when we practice astrology or when we study it or when we use it for ourselves? So one of the teachers that I had that made a huge impact on me, and 12 years ago when Jupiter was last in Cancer, I hosted him for a retreat on astrology as a form of divination is Jeffrey Cornelius. He wrote this book called The Moment of Astrology: Origins in Divination, which is, in my opinion, one of the best books on astrology ever written. This will be something like a preparatory textbook that a lot of students on the retreat I'll recommend read before you come to this course. Over the program for the course of a full week, in the mornings, we're going to be talking about the history, the metaphysics, the philosophy, the ancient mystics, and what they said about the nature of astrology itself. So we're going to think really deeply about what is astrology. Then in the afternoons, we're going to talk about how to connect with an oracle. Connecting with an oracle, connecting with astrology as a divinatory system, in other words, is about the marriage of intuition and being able to listen to the oracle speak while also utilizing the logic of craft. How do you marry those two things together? It's not something we take a lot of deliberate time to talk about as astrologers. So in the mornings, we're talking about history, philosophy, theory of astrology. In the afternoons, we're going to be talking about how to actually develop a living, vibrant relationship with an oracle so that it's informing how you approach the craft of a reading, or how you approach the craft of astrology itself, if it's something that you maybe just use only for you in your own spiritual path. Either way, practitioners, hobby students are all welcome. So a lot of hands-on immersive work with charts, with live clients, with different systems of divination, and talking a lot about how to connect with an oracle experientially in our afternoons, where our mornings will be devoted to theory. It's about 30 to 40 hours worth of content that we'll be doing over the course of a week together, which means this is effectively like one of my advanced training programs condensed into a week. It's brand new material, brand new curriculum, doesn't appear anywhere else in the Nightlight programs, and yet everything that this program includes is really a condensation of the underlying philosophy of astrology itself that is a part of all of the Nightlight programs and all of my work as a whole. And again, most of that was deeply inspired by the work of Jeffrey Cornelius, who's I consider him something of a mentor in my life. So that's a bit about what you will learn. If you have questions about what you will learn, you can feel free to email me for more details, info@nightlightastrology.com. Now, I want to talk about the format of the retreat. When you're on this retreat, first of all, you're in a beautiful sort of jungle beach location near Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, for a week, which means we every day will not just be about theory and experiential, immersive, oracular work, which I'm very excited about. I have a ton of really good curriculum written for us as a group to go through. But in the mornings, we're going to have the option of starting your morning with breath work, yoga, meditation. In the evenings, we'll probably cap our days off with a little bit of centering as well. So my wife, Ashley, who I ran a yoga studio with for a decade, will be with me leading daily meditation and yoga. She is an incredibly good yoga teacher, very grounded and very, wherever your level is at, there'll be something there for you. And that's optional as well. So every day you have a little meditation and yoga. There's healthy food that serves people if you're vegan, vegetarian, or eat meat or whatever. There's options for food. There's a beach, there's a pool, there's some jungle hikes available. So our days will be broken into periods of free time, periods of rest, and periods of focused learning, with things like meditation and yoga as options that are there for everyone. We'll also have some other meaningful group exercises that we'll do that will be, again, about how do you connect with an oracle? How do you make a conversation with the oracle a daily part of your life? So that's something of the format that you can look forward to in this beautiful kind of oceanside retreat setting. More information on the website. I'll show you that in a second. Who is this for? Ideally, you are someone who has a background in traditional Hellenistic astrology already. Wherever that comes from, if it's my courses or not, I want people coming to this retreat to have some pretty good solid background in Hellenistic astrology already. Or if you're from within our programs, then as long as you are enrolled in the year one program, you don't have to have finished it. You just need to be at least enrolled in it. Then you would be more than welcome. Any alumni from any of our programs would be welcome. And again, people who have some serious background in traditional astrology already, just because I don't want people to come along with maybe a modern background, but zero understanding of Hellenistic. So that would be who I would recommend this for. Spaces are limited, and we anticipate the retreat will fill up rather quickly. So I really recommend registering as soon as you can. You also have the early bird rates to help you save. Finally, how do I register? I'm going to take you over to the website, and you will find that here, the website, you can find it under the events page. Go to Immersive Retreat, or under the courses, it's our new course called The Oracle Within. When you scroll down, you're going to see everything that the program includes, basically everything I've gone over, maybe a little bit more details and depth there. as well as a little personal note for me that I wrote about why this means so much to me. You'll learn more about Mar de Jade, which is the beautiful retreat center. You can check it out. You're going to book through us. So you don't book through the retreat center, you book through us, and then we take care of it. At the bottom, you're going to find registration options that will be available starting on August 11th. That's today. Right now, as I'm looking at this, we don't have the prices listed yet. It's still kind of under construction. But at the bottom, you'll find different available options for registering. The different options will include different room options, and there's different. So if you want a private room versus maybe sharing a room with someone we'll assign you with that's part of the group, or maybe even a small group dorm room where there's like 5 people are sharing a room and you're comfortable being with other students on the trip, stuff like that. So there'll be some options there for everyone. There's an early bird rate that'll be in effect until October, saves you a little bit of money off the cost. And then also all of the different room options that are available at different price tiers depending on, and they go first come, first serve in terms of like, so there's some ocean view rooms. The people who book first will, get the best. We just go best available first and just run it like that. So anyway, again, as you are looking over anything on the page, you have any questions, email us info@nightlightastrology.com. I hope that this has been helpful. I can't wait to have finally an immersive in-person training program in a beautiful location. It's nice to do things online, but I really love having in-person time available. And I know that you're going to also really enjoy working with Ashley during the evenings throughout the week. Ashley will also have some little workshops that she'll be offering as options for people that are part of your retreat package that will be on plant spirit medicine topics and how to use different plant teachers to work with different astrological signatures in the chart. You got a difficult Mars, work with this plant. You got a challenged Venus, try this plant. So there's going to be some really fun little add-ons around plant spirit medicine that Ashley, if you know her on my channel, she talks about plants often, will also lead. So anyway, that's it. That's your informational video. I hope that this was useful. Hope to see some of you on the retreat in Mexico next year. Take it easy, everyone.